The new warning from the country's leading health experts. It is about that cantaloupe and the outbreak of listeria.
The tainted cantaloupes are linked to Jensen Farms in Colorado. At least 72 people have become sick, 13 deaths reported in 18 states.
It's just been pure hell. Devastating, unreal. I can't believe that a cantaloupe would make somebody that sick. Deathly ill.
Officially, the deadliest food crisis in America in more than 10 years. Health detectives at the CDC said today listeria can incubate inside the body for up to 2 months. So the number of victims is expected to rise. And here are the numbers tonight. 72 cases of listeria, as many as 16 deaths, all linked to cantaloupe from that farm in Colorado.
Listeria is actually harder than salmonella or even E. coli. And unlike other bacteria, colder temperatures don't destroy it. So the listeria actually grows and thrives in the refrigerator. So it could be in that melon in the refrigerator growing.
And you were saying to me, use bleach for your counters and your refrigerators and really wash your hands.
Absolutely. If you think it was on the counter, wash that counter, bleach the counter. You don't want to risk it.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me here, and I'm back with another anti-capitalism deep dive true crime video. Today I'm going to be doing the pure evil files of the melon and watermelon farming industry files. You know, deep dive into this topic: capitalism, pollution, wage slavery, food poisoning, recalls, true crime, child labor, etc. So let's get started into this YouTube video. But before we get started on this topic, all my YouTube videos related to this topic right now will be on the screen right now, as well as linked down in the video description down below if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started in this YouTube video deep dive. A summer picnic isn't complete without some melon slices, including cantaloupe, honeydew, and watermelon are just some of the examples of melons. You know, watermelons, they are hydrating fruit. Watermelons contain over 90% water and, healthy sugars. And a lot of vegans, and non-vegans eat it worldwide. Melons require warm weather to grow and therefore must be planted after the last frost of the year. The planting of melons is labor intensive, just like most aspects of farming. The plants require loose soil. Tilling is therefore often recommended. However, tilling is a lengthy process and the use of a rotulator can be very dangerous. Fertilizer is often suggested for the successful growth of melons, which can be detrimental to the health of the farm worker. Melons can only be pollinated for 1 day during their growth, and thus selective use of insecticides is required in order to avoid harming bee populations or other local pollinators in the areas. The cultivation and management of bees can be labor-intensive and dangerous as well. Melon harvesting is also a labor-intensive process. After melons are harvested, they are cleaned and sorted by size. Melons are generally sold as a fresh fruit. The fruits must be packaged and sent to processing, storage, and distribution facilities and centers. Watermelon, for example, have a high pesticide use. Pesticides are very unsustainable because they pollute groundwater and soil, have a high carbon footprint, and can even harm wildlife. Nitrogen has been known as a major pollutant. Nitrogen fertilizer causes oxygen depletion and contributes to dead zones and water sources, particularly around the Gulf of Mexico and other vital habitats. When fruit waste, either in the form of plastic packaging or cardboard organic materials, is disposed of, it can cause a lot of problems, whether it's damaging wildlife, getting into our oceans, causing a plastic pollution crisis or a garbage patch, emitting methane gases, or dissolving into microplastics that can contaminate groundwater and soil. All these materials have their part to play. Cardboard is a fairly unsustainable material, mainly because of their contribution to deforestation. Watermelon production has used around 3 million acres of land to date. This land usage represents not just deforestation, but also potential desertification as these watermelon farms deplete surrounding resources. Many animals use these regions and resources as their habitats, which are lost when agriculture replaces them. Habitat loss is the #1 cause of endangered species worldwide due to capitalism. Watermelon production has caused severe droughts, in particular in Northern Morocco, which is a major watermelon producing region, has seen significant droughts due to how much water watermelons consume. Mexico, a country known to use child labor in agriculture and farming, is the #2 exporter of melons worldwide and the #1 country from which the United States imports melons. Honduras, a country known to employ child labor in the melon production industry, is the third country from which the United States imports melons. The United States is the #1 importer of melons globally and annually. In Honduras, a country with a population of just over 8 million, more than 25,000 people labor on melon plantations. Although forced labor has not been conclusively documented, adult workers are vulnerable to a range of labor rights abuses, including serious health and safety violations, sub-legal minimum wages, and wage theft overall, denial of benefits, and pregnancy discrimination. Child labor, including hazardous child labor, has been noted in melon production in Honduras as well. Adult workers in the Honduras melon sector are primarily female and women, low income, and lacking formal education, making them a vulnerable population to exploitation, capitalism exploitation. The workers are given no access to Social Security or other forms of insurance, and they are frequently exposed to harsh weather conditions and dangerous chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Workers report working in recently sprayed fields without protective equipment and being fired when management learns of pregnancies. In 2015, 16 workers were hospitalized in Honduras after exposure to toxic pesticides on melon plantations. The 2 men and 14 women treated after being exposed to pesticide Gramro, which was mixed with chlorine. When a breeze blew the chemicals onto workers, they experienced fainting, vomiting, nausea, skin and eye irritation, and weaknesses, and were ultimately diagnosed with chloroform and inhalation poisoning. According to the interviews conducted during 14-hour workdays, only about half the workers interviewed reported giving time off for lunch. Less than a third of farm workers interviewed confirmed access to portable water, working restrooms, or cafeteria facilities. Despite working with dangerous tools to remove melons from the vines and being exposed to fertilizers and pesticides, which are toxic, fewer than half the workers interviewed were supplied with proper training or protective equipment to protect them from these hazards. A pattern of providing only temporary working contracts due to the seasonal nature of the melon cultivation industry allows plantation owners to avoid workers organizing or unionizing and reduces the likelihood of workers reporting unsafe or unethical working conditions. Multinational fruit distributors are known to hire seasonal melon workers in Honduras. Media reports indicate that workers hired by some multinational distributors are especially at risk of receiving low wages and wage theft, not being afforded legally mandated benefits, not having access to clean drinking water, sanitation facilities, and safety gear, protection gear, and may be fired for just being pregnant. It is estimated that there are between 370,000 and 510,000 children under 18 working in Honduras. Many of these children work in agricultural production, including on melon plantations. Indigenous children are particularly vulnerable to working in the fields alongside their parents or independently. The melon industry is seasonal, which means that children of migrant laborers travel around the country seeking work throughout the year, allowing them only limited access to schools. There have been reports of abuse on Mexican farm workers in farms in Mexico, including melon production. The reports have described instances of withholding wages, poor living conditions, lack of food and portable water, and debt, capitalism bondage, aka capitalism slavery, capitalism debt slavery. Child labor has been documented on small and mid-sized farms in Mexico, and these farms have produced crops that make their way into grocery stores and realtors in the United States. There There have also been reports of forced labor in the U.S. watermelon industry as well, particularly with migrant workers. Here is one such example. Miami, Florida. If you bought melons sold at Kroger, Schlucks, Walmart, It's a Big Box Club Offspring, Sam's Club, or any other chains, they might have been harvested or packed by H-2A visa workers provided by Los Vegros Harvesting, a Bartow company run by Vladimir Monroe. If they were, the fruit reached your table, aka from the victims of capitalism, victims of federal RICO and slavery law violations. Morado, 56 years old, violated federal RICO and slavery laws in getting those workers from Mexico to the United States and then abusing them once they were there. He admits this in his guilty plea in Tampa, Florida court to the RICO conspiracy and conspiracy to commit forced labor. The combination earned him a sentence of 9 years and 10 months in federal prison with $173,000 retribution to 17 of those workers he exploited. That's an average of $10,000 per person. The U.S. Department of Labor said that Morado, who was also a defendant in another North Carolina federal civil court class action lawsuit case, he has been disbarred from participating in the H-2A Temporary Agricultural Workers Visa Program again. Along with his ban, he got hit with a $203,000 worth of penalties. LVH employees, the guilty plea said, would hold on to the passports, an illegal act on its own, for the purpose of discouraging workers from fleeing, so the workers would be coerced and blackmailed to continue laboring for LVH under the poor conditions. He himself repeatedly and consistently told workers they would be deported or arrested if they don't keep working or try to escape his bad capitalism labor conditions. When investigators came around, he tried to imitate and blackmail the workers into silence. In another case, migrant workers in the Michigan watermelon industry were involved in a major wage theft lawsuit in 2013. They sued their employers over being paid less than the federal minimum wage and are granted a settlement of almost $15,000 in 2016. Labor disputes like this show there is room for such exploitation in the capitalism watermelon industry. It is not just wage theft, health risk associated with melons, a true crime history. Netflix's Poison documentary warns about cantaloupe risks. Jensen brothers plead not guilty to 6 federal counts in court in cantaloupe listeria outbreak case, charged with 6 federal criminal misdemeanor charges related to the 2011 listeria outbreak blamed on their cantaloupe. It was one of the most deadly outbreaks of foodborne illnesses and food recalls in U.S. history, killing at least 33 people and sending 150 to hospitals across the country. Jensen Farms, owned by the brothers, already went bankrupt because of the numerous civil action lawsuits filed after the outbreak. They are accused of aiding and abetting in the introduction of poisonous food into the interstate commerce.